Joshua Bruns is running for city council here in Pueblo City in District 3. District 3, which is southwest. He is running against incumbent Ed Brown. Constitutional conventions is what gave birth to the United States. Joshua Bruns notes Noam Chomsky and Democracy Now! As being some of his influences, and Richard Wolff, Noam Chomsky, Amy Goodman. I'm surprised any of these hoodlums around here know who Noam Chomsky is, or Amy Goodman, or Richard Wolff. Noam Chomsky is the most referenced man alive. Noam Chomsky is the top 10 author most referenced in all of history. Noam Chomsky led a revolution in linguistics. Noam Chomsky has been a very influential thinker because he's critical of American foreign policy. Richard Wolff is an economist. Amy Goodman is the one who runs Democracy Now!, which is an alternative media source, the only media out there that's actually telling the truth. Joshua Bruns is a genius. He's a thinker, a philosopher, a young, bright scholar. I mean, would you rather have a thinker or a non-thinker? Would you rather have a thinker or a stinker? Josh Bruns, he recognizes that 1/4, 25% of Pueblo City is poor and has been poor for centuries. That's his number one. Bruns wants to fight the high poverty in Pueblo. He sees that high poverty leads to the high crime rate and malnutrition of children. So poverty is one of his main staples to his platform. You want somebody to fight for the homeless and the poor and the working classes, then you got a champion. You got a people's champion, Pueblo City. Josh Bruns wants to reverse the horrible and unnecessary poverty trend. Tommy Farrell had an idea. He wanted to pass a law requiring subdivision developers to build a certain percentage of their buildings to be affordable housing, to designate them, to mark them. But nobody else has been talking about poverty. Poverty is a death sentence. Josh Bruns wants more local ownership. Bruns wants more local ownership and decision-making back to the locals in cooperatives, workers, self-directed enterprises to reduce our dependency on distant multinational corporations. He wants Pueblo City to be for Pueblo City. Joshua Bruns cares about the working class. You want to talk about passion? That's somebody who's passionate. Somebody who fights for the working class families of Pueblo City. The working class keeps the entire world going. As soon as the working class stops, the entire thing stops. And that's the stuff that Josh Bruns is made up of. The 99%, keeping Pueblo green, economic inclusion, self-sustainability, the working class families of Pueblo City. The working class families, that's what he represents. Josh Bruns recognizes that everyday expenses and monthly payments drain Pueblo's income and wealth. Distant corporations profit while we suffer. That's why Josh Bruns wants to connect the people to the resources that they own. Instead of just handing out fish, he wants to teach Pueblo City to fish. He believes in local investments by access to resources rather than direct subsidy. So he wants to connect the resources that the government has to the people. The people, we have government resources, but we don't even know what we got. Joshua Bruns believes in empowering the people, empowering the working class. Like I said, he wants to teach Pueblo City how to fish. He's not just passing out handouts. Joshua Bruns wants creative entrepreneurial applications with democratic accountability. Joshua Bruns wants to use creative entrepreneurial applications with democratic accountability that will transfer the control of profit, which is economic power, to local citizens. He believes in local controlled economic functions of providing necessary goods and services to boost our economic security. Always keeping local interest in mind, always keeping the working families of Pueblo City in mind. All to the working families, all to the locals. Josh Bruns says when power is given to the people, they will reinvest in Pueblo because that's where we live. We live here. You empower the people, we make Pueblo City better. How do you make Pueblo City better? You make the people better. You raise their income levels. You help their economics out. If you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. People need help with it's all about economics. Everything. It's all about economics. Economics moves history. Economics, it's all about economics. Everything is. So poverty is a death sentence. So is homelessness. That's even worse. But if you're not even talking about homelessness, if you're not even talking about poverty, I'm supposed to trust that you're going to do something about it. I know what you're going to do. You're going to ignore it. You're going to push it off to the side, and then you're going to try to gentrify it. You're not going to try to actually solve it by going to the roots of the problem and solving it at its roots. You're just going to put a Band-Aid on it. So the fact that Joshua Bruns is just talking about poverty and homelessness, I know that he gives a damn, I know that he cares, and I know that he's going to do something about it. With all these other candidates, I have no idea if they're going to. Bruns believes that fighting poverty is his main issue. That's his main thing. He thinks that raising the standards of living for the many will lead to the same for adjacent social classes. A rising tide lifts all boats. So far, a rising tide has only been lifting all the yachts. So Josh Bruns, he's a strong advocate for institutionalizing community oversight panels. He believes in police accountability. Josh Bruns believes in pure direct democracy. He wants Pueblo City to stand up, be independent. He believes in empowering local citizens and working class peoples and working class families. Josh Bruns will institute accessible online forums for citizen input into the local issues. He wants the community to input. He wants the community to be involved. He's not just stealing the community's ideas. He actually wants, that's how democracy works. Bruns believes in giving out periodic reports that are readable to all laymen and women. So he's transparent. This is what our government has been working on. So he believes in transparency. He's always going to be honest and tell us the truth. And he's always, the heart of Joshua Bruns is that he is for working class families. He's for working class peoples. He's about the economics. He's about putting more money in the people of Pueblo City's pockets. Joshua Bruns believes in worker-owned high-intensity gardening initiatives in order to get rid of the noxious weeds problems and the goat heads. So that's a proactive solution. Not only do we need to get rid of the weeds, but let's actually have a proactive gardening. Let's actually get aquaponics and high-intensity worker-owned gardening initiatives in order to clean this problem up. So Bruns has novel ideas when it comes to fighting homelessness. He mentions contour crafting. Contour crafting is an efficient way to construct houses. Contour crafting. Who the fuck else is mentioning contour crafting? He's also talking about community real estate rehab initiatives, creative approaches to owner-occupied foreclosures to make a dent in homelessness. Owner-occupied foreclosures, contour crafting. He also likes the idea of solar trees all throughout Pueblo City. He believes that the more walkable an area is, then there's more people there, more eyes, more ears are around, and that lowers the crime rate. So he wants solar trees all throughout the entire city of Pueblo. Solar trees, contour crafting, owner-occupied foreclosures, 3D printing. He believes in net neutrality. Joshua Bruns believes using the technology that we have to make all of our lives better. He wants to turn our trash into electricity. Joshua Bruns wants a free and accessible recycling center that sells goods patrons donate. Joshua Bruns believes in the revolutionary idea of constitutional conventions. Revolution is a natural, inherent human right. Constitutional conventions is what gave birth to the United States. In a dream world, Joshua Bruns would like to have constitutional conventions every year here in Pueblo City. Joshua Bruns wants to check on corporate tyranny. Joshua Bruns believes that the three branches of government is sufficient to check. Joshua Bruns doesn't just want 100% renewable energies. He doesn't want just 100% green Pueblo. He doesn't just want 100% Wi-Fi internet. He wants worker-owned municipal Wi-Fi internet. Worker-owned. Working class families. That's where he's at. His heart is in the right place. His heart is with the 99% of the people of Pueblo City. Joshua Bruns also believes it's time to end the war on drugs. Tommy Farrell and Michael Stapleton are also opposed to the war on drugs. Joshua Bruns believes in getting an aggressive arsenal of grant writers, and he wants public input, open forums, requests for proposals and comments. He believes that the power of the people can capitalize upon grant requests. He believes in high-intensity aquaponic gardening to profit the lot's owner, an outlet for a community-owned gardening startup. So aquaponics, contour crafting, 3D printing, solar panels, solar trees, economic permaculture. He thinks that it increases affordability, dependability, and accessibility. He absolutely is right about that. Pueblo City, are you listening? Are you paying attention? Permaculture, aquaponic gardening, turning trash into electricity, worker-owned city Wi-Fi, 3D printing, owner-occupied foreclosures, contour crafting. Contour crafting. Pueblo City, you got yourselves a gift with Joshua Bruns. This is somebody to go out and vote for. You're not voting lesser of the two evils. You're not cutting your losses. You're voting for a good man. You're voting for a good man. Joshua Bruns is a good man. And he believes in using technology to Joshua Bruns believes in using technology to improve all of our lives. He believes in creative solutions. He believes in community involvement. He believes in the power of the working families of Pueblo City. Pueblo City, I'm not for sure if you deserve Joshua Bruns. Contour crafting. Contour crafting. References Hobbes, State of Nature. He references Hobbes. He talks about Noam Chomsky, Richard Wolff. He talks about economics. He's a thinker. He's a smart man. Who gives a damn? Joshua Bruns believes in direct democracy. Joshua Bruns believes in referendums. Referendums are a hallmark of democracy. And then he says with the ubiquity of computers and phones, along with the potential citywide Wi-Fi, expressing one's views and impacting legislation and initiatives should be the norm. Expensive elections should be a thing of the past. So he thinks it should be gone. Like, let's get past this. We're the internet generation. We're the internet age. Why don't we start acting like it? We're Americans. Why don't we start acting like it? He likes ranked choice voting better than just a simple runoff voting. Ranked choice voting allows voters to express their opinions without risking wasting their vote on a third party or fringe candidate. Ranked choice voting allows somebody to vote without wasting their vote on a third party or fringe candidate. It allows for fringe candidates to not drop from a political race. It makes sure everybody is respected. Everybody's got a chance. Instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting, preferential voting is the only fair way. It's the only fair mechanism that we can have in our elections that makes it fair. It's the only way. We're a winner-take-all system. Unless we change it to a parliamentary system, we're a presidential system. And under a presidential system, the only fair mechanism is instant runoff voting. So if you just want one runoff voting, well, that's biased too. And it's expensive and it's cumbersome. Instant runoff voting is cheaper. It gives more options to the people. You actually get a majority winner. You actually get somebody that the majority of the people voted for, which inspires confidence. Can you imagine it though, Pueblo City? If we could raise an honest man who cares, a smart man who gives a damn into power, God, what a rare treat. A good, honest, principled man in government. A good, honest, principled man in government. Can you imagine it? Pueblo City, I got a dream. Joshua Bruns is the people's champion. He's the champion of working class families. The 1% have had their day in the sun. Now it's time for the 99%. Pueblo City, how green do you want our city? Vote for Josh Bruns. Pueblo City, how rich and how green and how wonderful do you want our city to become? Pueblo City, how green do you think we can get our city? How rich and prosperous can we make every single one of our citizens? Pueblo City, vote for Joshua Bruns unless you're stupid as fuck. Constitutional conventions is what gave birth to the United States. Pueblo City, vote for Joshua Bruns unless you're stupid as fuck. Contour crafting. Contour crafting.